Hello friend. I want to tell you about the Kia Ceed car. The Kia Ceed 2 doesn't stand out from the competition in terms of technology. Its suspension is a classic McPherson strut at the front and a multi-link system at the rear. The steering system is electrically assisted. The car's design is twinned with the second-generation Hyundai i30. The car was not equipped with four-wheel drive or other solutions beyond those known from the C segment. Kia Ceed engines. The engine range is very simple here and there is not as much choice as, for example, in the Volkswagen Group. Potential buyers can only complain about the lack of more powerful variants. Kia did offer a 204 HP drive, but only in the GT specification model. There are very few such cars on the market. What is worse, there is nothing in between this and engines of around 130 HP. The petrol engine range includes the entry-level 1.4 naturally aspirated with 99 bhp and the 1.6 with 136 bhp, as well as the aforementioned 204 bhp turbo version. After the facelift, an alternative to the 1.4 was introduced, the 1.0 TGDI unit with 3 cylinders generating 100 bhp and 120 bhp. The diesel range included the basic 1.4 CRDI engine with 90 HP and the larger 1.6 CRDI in versions with 110 HP and 128 HP, and from 2015, 110 and 136 HP. All manual gearboxes have 6 gears. Automatics were paired only with some engines, and so the 1.6 GDI engine worked with a 6-speed DCT dual-clutch transmission, and the 1.6 CRDI with a classic 6-speed automatic. Only after the facelift did the 7-speed DCT automatic debut in the most powerful diesel version. Kia Ceed. Which engine to choose? When it comes to parameters, the more powerful the better, apart from the 204 horsepower version, which can be considered a rarity. The engines suitable for the weight of the car are 1.6 GDI petrols and 1.6 CRDI diesels, regardless of power. Good performance is offered only by the most powerful versions, but even then it is not more than average performance. Against the background of the Korean compact, cars from the Volkswagen Group with units with power of 140 to 150 HP come out much better. If you don't prefer dynamic driving, the basic 1.4 engines will be completely sufficient. The diesel is a simple and reliable design, and it also burns slightly less than its bigger brothers. The 99 HP petrol is sluggish, but its design allows for the installation of an autogas system, which will translate into very large savings. Engines are viewed slightly differently from an operational perspective, and then a very simple 1.4 MPI unit comes to the fore, which after the facelift has a slightly different design, but the fundamental change is hydraulic valve clearance adjustment, previously mechanical. It is the car after the facelift with 1.4 under the hood that turns out to be the least problematic and cheapest to use, even without LPG, average about 7L, 100 kilometers. The timing chain is durable and you shouldn't worry about it too much. The 1.6 GDI's fuel consumption is comparable, and the engine's performance is much better, but there's no potential for installing an LPG system. This engine is related to the naturally aspirated 1.6 MPI version available on other markets. It has a timing chain and a fairly simple, durable design. The differences are mainly direct injection and the presence of a dual-mass flywheel. However, there were expensive failures of this engine at the beginning of production, seizing, rotating bearings. It is worth remembering that this engine is characterized by very even operation, so if there are any jerks or fluctuations in speed, it is necessary to check the cause. The turbo version of this engine suffered from turbocharger problems at the beginning of production, but mainly in cars that had rarely changed oil. A fairly common problem is the ingress of gasoline into the oil in large quantities, which can cause the crankshaft bearings to rotate quite often. An overloaded engine, mainly thermally, can simply fall apart, which is why chip tuning is not recommended here. It is generally not recommended. I don't want to give an opinion on the 1.0 TGDI engine because I've heard some extremes. It's a fairly new engine and not very popular. It's not struggling with any major problems yet, it doesn't have a dual-mass flywheel, it has a timing chain. Personally, I don't recommend this unit, mainly because of its design, which is risky and a bit overloaded in this car. It also surprises with its high fuel consumption. The most valued engines in the Ceed are diesels, because the opinions about these engines are very good. Both 1.4 and 1.6 belong to the same family and are almost twin units. The only difference is that 1.4 CRDI has a dual-mass flywheel, while the 110 and 128 HP versions of the 1.6 CRDI engine do not. Which is a big advantage, arguing for buying a larger unit. Unfortunately, although the dual mass for 1.4 is listed in the parts catalogs and you can also find used parts, there is no product, i.e. a replacement. Diesels are equipped with a timing drive realized by 2 chains and a solid, cheap-to-repair Bosch injection system. Unfortunately, the timing chain tends to stretch. A replacement set costs about $200. It is worth checking their condition every 40 to 50,000 kilometers. Kia Ceed, typical faults. The car has undergone many service campaigns and it is worth checking after purchase, or even before it, which ones a given model has already undergone and which ones still concern it. The main reason is the poor quality of production in the Slovak factory, which resulted in many complaints. One of the recalls involved replacing door seals and sometimes entire windows, which were scratched when opened, when sand and small stones got between the window and the seal. Others concerned, among others, the rear hatch or the front wiper arms. These recalls were mainly related to aesthetics, and when it comes to serious defects, there were none in this model. One of the quality failures is also the LED daytime running lights, which in the front headlights may not work or flash. The problem concerns the controllers of these lights, not the headlights themselves. Flashing lights in the car may also be caused by a failure of the alternator one-way clutch. Another electronics failure is the keyless entry, which can refuse to work. More and more often, owners of older models notice the problem of body corrosion. This mainly concerns the edges of the sheet metal, on which blisters appear. The car can be assessed quite easily in this respect during inspection, and the chassis is holding up noticeably better. Corrosion appears mainly on connecting elements, screws. The paint is not very resistant to scratches. Buying a car with a dual-clutch gearbox is quite risky. It is better to choose a manual or classic automatic, diesel only. This is very durable and does not cause problems, and in the event of a failure it will not be as expensive to repair as dual-clutch gearboxes. Manual gearboxes are durable, although they sometimes have problems with clutch control, which manifests itself in difficult gear changes. If you do not take care of this, you can destroy the gearbox. The suspension isn't particularly durable, but repairs aren't expensive. The stabilizer links and steering rods most often need to be replaced. The front wishbone bushings and pins can be replaced separately. The rear suspension is very durable, and you can also buy any bushing, so you don't have to worry about potentially high costs at high mileage. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know any problems with this car that I didn't mention, be sure to write about them in the comments.